Hey beautiful people, my name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel. Today I am talking about my book reviews for the books that I read in December of 2022. I read a total of 12 books. 6 of them were Christmas books, which I did a separate Christmas book review. I can leave that in the description box link below if you would like to see those. But I have 6 other books that I wanted to talk about. The first is S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. I did an extensive review of this book, loved it, 5 stars. I will leave that in the description if you are interested in this. It is basically a story within a story of the story itself is a gentleman lost at sea in a mysterious ship that has mysterious properties. And then within the book, you actually get all of these inserts, notes in the margin. So then you have people who are talking about the mysterious author, about the things that are going on in the physical world of the author, and then the students who are studying the book and their story of what's going on. So it's stories upon stories, a big puzzle book of stories. Wonderful if you are interested in that kind of thing. Totally recommend it. The next book I want to talk about is Babel by R.F. Kuang. So this book, I will start off of saying I am more on the side of really loving it. It is a 4-star book. It has several things that I really appreciate about it. I love this concept of Babel itself. So it is set on Oxford University. There is an actual tower. It kind of has that nod to the biblical Babel, which was many languages that were created to break up the unity. And so this is a place where they bring in experts of many languages to try to not only translate and bring together language, but there is a magic type of system going on with silver bars that if you pair correct words in other languages, the translation and the magic powers of the silver itself creates a magical effect. So like if you have even something simple like 2 different words of garden and growth, it can enhance your garden to do well. Transportation speed, military might and shield. So there's just endless implications. So supposedly in this kind of modern, English society, we have now kind of used these magic bars to enhance all of life. But in the meantime, they have to maintain them. It's become a huge business and it's very capitalistic, and it's not always fair how the powers and uses of it are distributed. And so when they bring a lot of students from around the globe, around the economic poverty levels into this place, they also have to wrestle with the injustices of it. And what I didn't really appreciate was just how heavy-handed I felt that the concepts of race and poverty and capitalism were handled. I did appreciate our main character that we're following is a Chinese boy who has come from total poverty. His family has perished in a plague, and his thought process of kind of wrestling and trying to, be in the world where he's appreciative of the second chances he's been given and the powers that he's been given to be a Chinese translator, and yet seeing some of the racism and the things that he has to struggle with. So he's kind of crossing and straddling both lines. And I did appreciate the dialogue and thought process in his head. There are kind of 4 main foreign students that are going through and wrestling through all of this stuff. The pacing was pretty good. I do think it's a little bit long, a little drawn out in parts, but for the most part, the pacing was good. The writing was good. The characters were good. I thought the story was very interesting. I, think that it is a little bit dark in nature of, dealing with some of these issues. And again, my kind of not 5-starring it, but 4-starring it is because it just felt like the author was not allowing or not trusting us as readers to like pick up on the fact that some of these things are not right or some of these things need to be philosophically thought out or reevaluated, or how does that all work. I did like that there weren't totally, you know, solvable answers, and it wasn't like the answers weren't handed to us, but the problems were very much handed to us over and over and over again. And I felt like, enough already, I got it, I get the point. And that was very distracting to what was actually a very interesting and engaging kind of premise and storyline. So that is my thoughts on Babel. Next, for my nonfiction this month, I read Ta-Nehisi Coates' The Beautiful Struggle. This is a lovely follow-up to Between the World and Me. This is talking about his kind of biography of growing up. He has a map of his neighborhood. He talks about his brothers and neighborhood kids and the gangs and the struggles that were going on for basically growing up in poverty with some difficult choices and, you know, racial tensions and all of that stuff. It is very raw, very gritty, very beautiful writing, very difficult to read. And, you know, it does have some cursing. I thought I would just share one little passage. If you were interested in exploring some of his writing, you can kind of see the power and the rawness of it. It says, nowadays, I cut on the tube to see the dumbfounded looks when over some minor violation of name and respect, a black boy is found leaking on the street. The anchor shakes their head. The activists give their stupid speeches, praising mythical days when all disputes were handled down at Ray's gym. Politicians step up to the mic, claim the young have gone mad, their brains infected, and turned super predator. Fuck you all who've ever spoken so foolishly, who've opened your mouths like we don't know what this is. We have read the books you own, the scorecards you keep, done the math, and emerged prophetic. We know how we will die. With cousins in double murder suicides, in wars that were mere theory to you, convalescing in hospitals slowly choked out by angina and cholesterol. We are the walking lowest rung, and all that stands between us and beast, between us and the local zoo, is respect. The respect you take as natural as sugar and shit. We know what we are, that we walk like we are not long for this world, that this world has never longed for us. Whew, y'all. He writes powerful and just very, very raw, very gritty, very in your face, doesn't change the facts of what happened to him, to his family, particularly to his brother. Just an account that if you want a glimpse into a different world, into a different setting, it's available for you. Next, my classic of the month of December. I am so happy to talk about Dune by Frank Herbert. This book intimidated me that I thought, you know, I would really struggle with it. It had some reviews that were a little intimidating. And I will say that even the first 100 pages are very immersive into the landscape, into the culture, into the characters. And it's a little much to work through. I will give you that. I had to really focus. I had to really invest in that first 60 to 100 pages. But once you do that, this world, these characters are really awesome. It is set in a world where there is this planet that is very interesting, very desert landscaping. There are giant worms that you are trying to figure out if they themselves are the enemy or the creator. There are different kind of warring factions, kind of the city civilized within the borders, and then kind of the rural Dune folk. And there is power plays of who's going to get the rich resources on this planet and take control. There is royalty and factions and things of this nature that you are trying to discern and kind of figure out who is going to kind of rule this deserty, awesome, wild land. And the main protagonist, Paul, is kind of like the chosen Messiah, if you will. There's like prophecies and there's like a religious aspect, which I always appreciate the spiritual kind of meaning behind it all, right? And so he even takes on like a new spiritual leader name, and it's just this wonderful quest of, again, power, resources, survival, interesting worlds. I believe there are 5 books in this story world creation that he wrote. So I am very, very much looking forward to continuing my journey now that I have done the work of setting into Dune. And if you have any interest in fantasy, sci-fi type of literature, this is worth it. Talking a little bit about classics, I buddy read with Jillian at Novel Opinions, The Song of Achilles. So this is kind of some people say it's a retelling of the Iliad. I find it a better description to be, it is fanfare writing of the Iliad. It has all of the similar characters and similar nods to all the wars and the warring factions, even dipping into the gods versus the mortals and how that is all lining up. But I found it to be a completely other story, definitely a different vibe and flavor than when I was reading the Iliad last year. So the Song of Achilles is just kind of a beautiful love story, if you will, between Achilles and Patroclus. He was his companion. So we go along, it follows the same events as the Iliad in a kind of tragic mortal versus God versus fates kind of way. And I just found it to be very satisfying and very brilliantly done. It made me think a lot. It had me comparing the stories, but in a good kind of way. And even though I'm not the adamant fan that a lot of people are, I definitely think this was a solid read. Give it a solid 3 stars. Glad I read it. Had a good time having a buddy read. And finally, I had done a review clip for my traveling book club so I could show the actual book with the notes in it. We are passing around books from month to month to different people and actually putting our notes in the margins of the book for one another. But I accidentally deleted the clip. So I read My Dark Vanessa. This was a book that Sarah picked, and I really, really did enjoy the opportunity to read it. I had debated for quite some time whether or not I was going to read that because I work with teenagers, and this book is about the grooming and mistreatment of a professor towards a young female student. And so that is a very creepy subject. At least I hope it's creepy for most people because it is. And I decided in the end I was not going to read it because I thought that it was too close to a lot of reality and I didn't need to read another story but like that. But the truth is, if you have ever in your mind wondered, like, why would this happen, or how would any girl allow this to take place, or, you know, how does the situation happen? It actually gives a pretty good insight into kind of answering that. I don't know that this is for everybody. It definitely has some trigger warnings for people, but again, if you are kind of in that world a little bit and you just kind of want a creepy read and read what that might be like, then you could check out this book. So those were the 6 books that I read besides the Christmas books. So with Christmas books, this was such a sweet, sweet December read. I just can't even begin to express how much fun I had reading in December. So if you've read any of these, leave me a comment below. If you would like to read any of these now, leave me a comment below about that. Like and subscribe for more reviews. I hope to see you again throughout 2023. Take care, y'all.